Hi friends, Inktober 2025 is almost here, and I'm both excited and a little bit nervous. I know how overwhelming it can feel to keep up with all the prompts, so today I just want to share you some tips that I believe can help us survive Inktober, and also I'm going to share you some great supplies and some cozy sketching along the way. If you're new to it, Inktober is this art channel where we make one ink drawing every day in October, following a list of prompts. Here's this year's official list. When I first see it, my brain goes, oh wow, 31 words, how am I going to manage that? But it doesn't have to be scary. It can be as simple or as complex as you want. Before we get into sketching, let's talk about supplies. I know it's called Inktober, but honestly you don't need anything fancy to join. Even a single black pen and a piece of paper is enough. But I'll share what I like to use just to give you some ideas. The first one is fineliner. I love this material. Actually, you can use the thinner ones for details and the thicker ones for outlines. It all depends on your style. One of my must-haves for Inktober is a set of fineliners. They're super reliable and come in different sizes, which makes them really versatile. I usually keep a 0.05 or 0.1 for very fine details like hair strands, tiny textures, and delicate cross-hatching. A 0.3 or 0.5 feel nice for everyday outlines. It's sort of my go-to size when I don't want to think too much, and sometimes I use a bigger one for bolder outlines or when I want to sketch to be really pop on the page. The thing I love most is how predictable they are. No smudges, no ink spills, just smooth, even lines. If I'm sketching in a cafe or traveling, I always toss one in my bag because they're so easy. My tip would be you don't need the whole set. Just one or two sizes that feel comfortable in your hand can be more than enough. For fineliners, the main thing I look for in paper is that it doesn't bleed or feather. Fineliners have water-based pigment ink, so they work best on a smoother paper. Smooth surface Bristol papers are perfect if you want crisp, clean lines. The smooth surface helps the pen glide and keeps details sharp. Many brands make sketchbooks labeled for pen or ink. Those are safe choices too. If you want to mix ink with washes or watercolor, hot press paper is better because it's smooth. Cold press has too much texture and might eat your fineliners quickly. And also regular sketch papers, those are acid-free, works fine for everyday Inktober doodles. Just avoid super thin copy paper because it tends to bleed through. My personal tip would be test your pens on the last page of your sketchbook. Every paper reacts differently, and it's better to discover it at the back than on your first Inktober drawing. Another tool I love using during Inktober is brush markers. They're kind of like a mix between a pen and a paintbrush, and they let you play with the lines and its shapes really easily. If you press lightly, you get a thin, delicate line. If you add a little more pressure, you get those bold, thick strokes. And switching between them in one drawing gives so much life and rhythm to the lines. They usually come in different colors, and also some brush markers brands come in gray tones, which are amazing for shading without needing extra tools. It's almost like having watercolor in pen form. Brush markers can bleed to very thin paper, so I prefer using them on a sketchbook with the slightly heavier pages. Something I also enjoy using is a roller ball pen. They feel really different from fineliners or brush pens. The ink flows much more smoothly, almost like writing with a fountain pen but without the maintenance. I use them when I want deep, rich black lines that feel a little more fluid. They're great for sketching quickly because the ink keeps up with your hand and you don't have to press hard. Some roller pens even let you get a bit of line variation just by changing your hand pressure. The only thing to watch out for is that rollerball pens can sometimes smudge if you touch the page too quickly because the ink stays wet for a moment. But on the right paper, they are so smooth and satisfying to use. I also like using dual tip markers. They are really handy because you get two tools in one: a brush tip, which is broader for expressive strokes or even for writing things around your sketches, and a fine tip for details or writing also again. The brush side is great for filling big areas, making shadows, or adding dynamic lines. The fine tip works well for outlines, little textures, or even lettering if you want to add words to your drawing. They are especially useful if you don't want to carry a whole set of pens. Just one dual tip marker can cover a lot. Another option for Inktober is using a brush with ink or watercolor. This is a little more traditional and honestly really fun if you enjoy working with washes. A round watercolor brush is perfect for both thin lines and filling the small areas. If you want a lot of control, a liner brush or very thin round brush is great for detail. And also I like using water brushes. They're travel friendly and super convenient if you don't want to set up water every time. If you've never used a brush with ink, it's worth it trying. It can feel messy at first, but there's something really magical about those flowing, unpredictable strokes. Something I sometimes reach for during challenges like Inktober is Ecoline. It's a liquid watercolor that comes in little jars and it's honestly so much fun to use. The colors are super vibrant and transparent, which makes them great if you want to add just a soft wash of color behind your ink drawing. You can dilute them with water to get lighter tones or layer them to build depth. They work really nicely with brushes or even dip pens, so you can either paint with them or draw directly. You need to know is that Ecoline is not waterproof, so if you draw with fine liners and then paint over it, you'll want to make sure your pen is waterproof first. Otherwise, it might smudge. The other tool is, of course, watercolor. I love it. How about you? Do you enjoy working with watercolor? Now let's talk a bit about paper because it really can make a breakthrough Inktober experience for you. You should look for paper that at least 100 or 120 grams if you're using fine liners or markers so the ink doesn't bleed through. If you want to add washes or watercolor, go for 200 grams or higher. Smooth paper is amazing for clean, crisp lines with fineliners. Textured paper like cold pressed watercolor can eat your pens quickly, but it's lovely if you're painting with a brush. Some sketchbooks are designed for alcohol markers or ink, and those are wonderful if you like to use brush markers. My little ritual is to try my pens on the back page of a new sketchbook. Every paper reacts differently, and it's better to experiment in a hidden spot than ruin a fresh page. The best paper is the one you'll actually use. Even a simple sketchbook can be enough for Inktober if you enjoy drawing on it. Remember, Inktober isn't about having the perfect supplies. It's about making art every day. Use what feels comfortable and inspires you to open your sketchbook. And just a little reminder, it's totally okay to skip some days. Inktober isn't about being perfect, it's about enjoying the process and growing at your own pace. Even if you only do a handful of prompts, that's still more drawings than if you hadn't started at all. For the last supply, I suggest, if you want to work on digital platform, of course, iPad would be great help through that challenge. Okay, that's my little Inktober guide. Remember, it's okay to skip days. What matters is enjoying the process and opening your sketchbook. Can't wait to see what you create this year. Happy drawing, friends!